Buonasera a tutti e benvenuti a questo spazio. Welcome everyone. Tonight I wanted to do something a bit different. Like many of you, we've all been scrolling through our feeds for months. Hopefully, here in Europe, we've been going out there to protest the war in Gaza and the occupation in the West Bank. But like me, hopefully, or not hopefully, but sadly, you feel paralyzed and you feel impotent. You watch the news and you think, this is crazy. Not only this is going on, but my tax money is probably funding this. And there's nothing I can do from where I'm sitting to do anything about it. But a few weeks ago, I started noticing something a bit different. I was looking at some posts from acquaintances and people I know who actually live in Palestine and Israel region, Jewish, Arab, Christians. They were sharing a lot of this content, and they were sharing a reality that is almost completely absent from our discourse here in Europe. So I kept seeing these people, many different ages, wearing yellow vests, standing, like placing their bodies between shepherds and the armed soldiers, or shepherds and the settlers in the West Bank. So I found out that they are a group called Mistaclim LaKibush Ba'Einayim, looking the occupation in the eye. And what I liked, or what I found important to show about them, is that they're not just posting slogans. They are on the ground. They're providing, or attempting at least to provide, a pragmatic physical protection to people who are being hunted off their land. And frankly, in the perspective here in Europe, we almost never see this. We hear about the bombs, we hear about the politicians, but we don't know what's going on in the ground and on the personal level. So I reached out to them. And tonight I have Netta Ben Porat with me. She's not a politician. She's just like you and me. She has a day job. She's an activist as well, who spends her days in the hills of the West Bank. And she has been part of the movement, she told me, since its establishment 4 years ago. She even testified at the UN. And I wanted to bring her here because, I don't know, if you, like me, are tired of feeling helpless. But looking at her work, in my opinion, is a concrete way to see where aid can actually go and how we can redirect our efforts to concrete action. So after this little monologue, I want to welcome you. Brucha haba'a, Netta. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very much.
time. All right. Of course, I just spoke a bit about Mistaclim, but it's your movement. I mean, you're part of this movement. I would like to ask you, for someone who has never heard of who Mistaclim is, how would you speak about the story and the mission of what you're doing and who you are?
So first of all, kudos for saying all the words in Hebrew. I know it's not that easy. Yeah, so I'm part of Mistaclim LaKibush Ba'Einayim, or as we call it, Mistaclim, or Mista, since its establishment in August 21. Mistaclim was established by a group of Israeli protesters that took part in the big demonstrations, the anti-corruption demonstration that were held in Israel in 2020 and 2021. Which eventually led to elections in Israel. Part of this group, the leader, or the one who started this movement, is called Guy Hirschfeld. He left Mistaclim a few months ago, but he was the one who gathered a group of anti-occupation protesters that were part of the anti-corruption demonstrations. We started by going to the Jordan Valley and escorting shepherds when they go out to the pasture, because they were harassed by settlers, by army, and by the police. This is how it started. In parallel to going and being on the ground, we always had a very strong media group in Mistaclim that published both what we do and the experiences that we, the volunteers on the ground, have, and also demonstrations that are part of what Mistaclim is doing, both in Israel, and also we held the only constant demonstration within the West Bank for a few years now. That's it. That's what we do. We are on the ground. Sadly, you said that you think you're trying to talk to the people that feel helpless and that they can do nothing. I'm very sorry to tell you, and maybe that's a spoiler for the whole meeting. We feel helpless too. We
Hmm.
are there. We try to prevent what we see, the ethnic cleansing, the harassments, the second Nakba. Thousands of acres were already ethnically cleansed in the
Hmm.
last years. We are there to try and stop it and prevent it, but the forces that we stand against are much larger and bigger than what we can do, and we haven't managed to stop.
Hmm.
Maybe to stall a little.
Okay,
Like,
well, it's not a great start to the year when you hear things like
no,
this. You mentioned this
sorry.
last time we had the chat, but I'm still really interested. Well, we'll get there as to why you feel like the forces are becoming too much, and you're only holding them still for now. But I was wondering, what was the day to day like, or what is the day to day like of a volunteer for Mistaclim? What do you do
So
concretely?
we talked a week ago, and things changed dramatically in the past week. Mr. Klim is focusing its on the ground action in the south of the Jordan Valley,
Hmm.
where there are villages of Palestinian communities, Bedouin communities that are mainly doing some kind of agriculture, mainly sheep and goats. When we started, we had MERAtv, and we were in Rasatin, and we were in Muarajat, and many other small communities. All those communities do not exist anymore. We started by having a day shift with the shepherds coming when they leave their house and go to graze, and leave them when they're going back home. In the last about a year, maybe a little more than that, we do 24/7 shifts,
Hmm.
because the harassments are not only when the Palestinians do not go out grazing anymore.
Hmm.
They have to buy food for their herds, and the settlers are now focusing on harassing them in their own homes, in their own villages. So we
Hmm.
have a constant presence of activists in the villages, and the last big village in the south of the Jordan Valley, where we are now trying to protect, is Ras En Eluja. When we just started, or maybe even after we started, an outpost was established about
Hmm.
a few kilometers from Ras El En. At that time, this outpost focused on trying to expel Muarajat. In the last couple of months, since Muarajat was evicted, they are focusing on Ras.
Hmm.
About 2 years ago, or a year and a half, another outpost was established on the other side of Ras El Uja. And then a few months ago, another one. Tuesday, Wednesday, a new one was established in the middle of the village.
Hmm.
And we are now not just doing 24/7 shifts there, we have a constant presence of at least 10 to 15 activists in the
Hmm.
village, because they are being suffocated by the outpost and the settlers, who steal, who rob, who they open the water tanks, they try to
Yeah.
steal sheep and goats. We have videos of them stealing dogs, killing lambs, harassing, filming in the houses. So this is what we do. We stand there, we try to prevent that. We try to film that in the hope that it will prevent them from doing what they do. So this is the day to day. There are more places where we stay. We have a presence in Duma, some other places. This is what is happening on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we have the demonstration. We have a presence in middle of Tel Aviv
Okay.
center once a week on Thursday evening, where we do hasbara. I think
Uh-huh.
that's a now common word, hasbara,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not hasbara for Zionism, but anti-occupation.
Mhm.
And we also have the demonstration in the West Bank once a week on Friday
Mhm.
mornings.
Okay, just,
This-
I
And
imagine
also we
the
take part in the big demonstrations in Israel.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, I've seen the posts as well on the page. Also, you're not the only group there. There's the Jordan Valley group you mentioned last time
Yeah,
too.
there are other groups. I'm
Mhm,
mainly volunteer in Mistaclim,
mhm,
but yeah, there are other groups. The Jordan Valley activists, they mainly
mhm,
act in the north of the Jordan Valley.
mhm,
The communities there are smaller, just 4, 5 tents or houses or families. It is much more scattered and it is very hard to protect them. They are doing an amazing job. We have Kol Rabani, or Rabbis for Human Rights.
mhm,
They do the same. And this is all in the West Bank. And there are
mhm.
also groups that do similar work in Masaf Yatta.
Just wondering also about the day-to-day. So the I'm guessing the settlers outnumber the shepherds, or how is the situation?
Not necessarily. Ras
Mhm,
El Huja is a village of more than 100 families. There are many
mhm,
young people there. Last night,
mhm,
for example, we were in the village about maybe 12 activists, but when the settlers tried to attack a family within a minute, a few dozens Palestinian youth were alarmed and they went to be with this
okay.
family and keep them safe. It's a brave thing to do because while we might get beaten or arrested, the Palestinians might get shot.
Yeah.
Uh,
You mentioned also, like, if you get arrested, you go to, like, normal court, right?
yes, that's the apartheid regime that we have in the West Bank. The Israelis who live in the West Bank, they live under the Israeli law.
Mhm,
If they are being arrested, they will face charges in Israeli courts.
mhm,
The Palestinians do not live under the Israeli law. They live under military regime.
mhm,
And the laws there are different.
mhm,
While if I'm getting arrested, they need to bring me a face judge. I think within 24 hours, Palestinians they can hold him for 96 hours, 4 days before he sees a judge.
mhm,
Administrative arrests are rarely done on for Israeli citizens. It is a
mhm,
very common practice for Palestinians. Yeah, we live under different law, although
mhm,
I,
mhm.
I don't live in a settlement in the West Bank, but
Yeah.
the Israelis who live in the settlements, they live right near the Palestinians, but they have a different law. We can vote and choose the government. They can't vote and they can choose
Mhm,
who
mhm.
set the rules and who rules them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I recently saw someone saying, "Oh, it's not apartheid, it's ethnocracy." And I was like, "Does that make it better?" You it's all for international law, no? Sorry, I wanted to move a bit forward. Namely, when we
Okay.
chatted last time, you mentioned, and I found this like a very poignant insight. You were speaking about how you're not trying to show good Israel, and you we were talking about like how
Yeah.
this makes no sense, or why this is a wrong angle to take. And I was wondering, could you explain what you mean by that?
In Israel, the Israelis, it's not very common, but when they speak about what's going on in the West Bank, they talk about the settlers' violence.
Hmm.
And the settlers are violent. I can't deny that. After being beaten so many times, I can't deny that they are violent. But the problem is not the settlers' violence. The problem is the state violence. Last night, again, for example, when the settlers tried to attack and steal, and they entered the pen of the Palestinian families, we called the police. The police came, and she didn't stop to talk with the Palestinians or with the activist. She simply, the police car simply went to the outpost, to the illegal outpost.
Mm-hmm.
They sat there, the cops with the settlers, had some tea, coffee, cake, I don't know, and then went back without even stopping uh, to talk with us. And we were the one who called them. It's not settlers' violence, it's state violence. It is backed up by the army, the police, the government, the court. Everyone is part of this regime. What is even more sad, it is not just the institutions or the current government, it's the people of Israel who
Mm-hmm.
back this, sometimes by actively doing those things as part of, let's say, the reserve duty, or by being by living in settlements, and sometimes simply by paying the taxes and not raising their voices and not being on the ground to stop all these things. The fact that we do have a few Israelis that are willing to risk their body, I, I, I hesitate whether to say risk their life,
Mm-hmm.
because it sometimes get to that, but rarely. I don't think it can wash the Israeli society.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to be, I'm not willing to be the one that people can say, oh, there is another Israel. There are good people in Israel. Even that I am there and I'm trying to protect, I'm paying the taxes and I'm funding all those horrible things that are done to the Palestinians in the West
Mm-hmm.
Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that saying there are good Israelis. There are, yeah, there are, but there are few, and we cannot represent the state of Israel.
Yeah, I guess also your, I guess, portion or your demographic, people who are willing to do these things, I would call them politically homeless, no? Like, it's not a left or right wing necessarily, or correct me if I'm wrong, but like, for instance, Mapai, they played a big role in the starting of the settlements, correct? It's not just Likud versus Mapai.
Mm.
Like, you can find hardcore pro-Zionism, politics in both sides of the political spectrum, no?
There is only one Arab Jewish party,
Mm-hmm.
Hadash. There are two other Arab parties, and there is a lefty party called the Democrats in
Mm-hmm.
Israel. The leader of this party is Yair Golan, who was almost the chief of staff. I don't know how to translate it to
Mm-hmm.
English.
Yeah.
The commander of the IDF. Um, it's not that there are no people in this party who speaks about the occupation, and there are Gilad Karib and Avid Dabush, which is amazing, and even Naama Lazimi sometimes, but this is not what they are focusing on. There are terrible people there like Giora Island, who spoke in favor of the hunger in Gaza and the starvation as a weapon in the Gaza war.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it can't really be our home, political home, even if some of us will choose to vote for this party
Mm-hmm.
because it's maybe the less bad one.
Shifting a bit towards a bit of your story without necessarily going to like the geographical specifics. But you mentioned, or like, I was really interested in seeing like who is behind this movement. Like I said, it's not, you're not a politician, right? But you gave me a really good quote the other time. Like, when I asked you how you got in touch, how you, I don't want to say opened your eyes, but how you started to exit the traditional narrative that maybe most Israeli citizens have in their head. So I wanted to ask you again a bit about that. How did you get in touch, and how did you exit
Um,
the narrative?
okay, so as I said, Mr. Klim started in actually in Balfour and the anti-corruption demonstrations. When I went to those demonstrations, I saw there was anti-occupation group there, and when I saw them there, I was anti-occupation from when I was young. But when I saw them there, I said to myself, "That's not the place. That's not the demonstration. What are they doing here? They're spoiling everything for us. It's not. They shouldn't be here. They shouldn't talk about that, and so on."
Hmm.
And also, I met Guy Hirschfeld, who constantly told me, "You have to come once to the Jordan Valley. You have to come with me once." And then when the demonstrations were over, I went once. And the experience was so intense. When I look back at it now, it's nothing. We had a beautiful day. We went with the shepherds we went kilometers into the mountains. And then just two bikers came and they drove. It was fully intentional, drove in the herd of the sheep just to scare them away, and they went. And I was shocked by how evil you can be. How I couldn't understand why they're doing that. And after being there once and seeing it with my own eyes, I kept coming back. And it didn't happen in one day. But as time went by and the more and more experiences that I had there in the West Bank, my eyes were opened to see that the narrative that I grew with, like land with no people to people with no land, the most moral army in the world. Uh, yeah, this is what every Israeli is born and raised to.
Hmm.
And I saw the soldiers and I saw the what they do and how they look at Palestinians as if they're inferior, how they treat them, how they treat me when I stand in solidarity with Palestinians, how I lose all my privileges as an Israeli when I stand with Palestinians.
Hmm.
And this is what happened. It's just being there and being with Palestinians and experiencing what they experience or seeing what they experience really opened my eyes.
Hmm. Has there been a change insofar as you mentioned you lose your privilege when you stand with Palestinians, but maybe was it the case that in the past they would be the settlers a bit more reluctant to get close if they knew you're not Palestinian, or like maybe the police wouldn't engage so much, or has that always been the case?
Things are much worse now than they
Hmm.
used to be after October 7th. And with this government, the minister who is in charge of the police, and the settlers are now in high ranks in the army. This is what they decided to do. They are now in control of the army, of the police, and this is what we experience on the ground. And yeah, obviously the settlers are now being more violent. They allow themselves to do much more than they used to. We are
Hmm.
getting beaten on a daily basis. We have less and less protection. The police is
Hmm.
not coming. I was beaten 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I had head concussions and the police didn't come.
Hmm.
We saw them. They went to the outpost again and they didn't come to
Well,
talk to me. Yes, I was evacuated by my friends from
well,
the.
very on the ground pragmatic question. Do you do the Palestinian shepherds, they know you personally? How do you communicate? Do you speak? How does that work?
Some of them know me personally. Actually, the ones that I started by volunteering in the north of the Jordan Valley, not in the south.
Hmm.
So and there I used to know many when we went out to the pasture to graze. then we had many hours with the shepherd. So yeah,
Mhm.
they came to know us. They knew us by name and family and the kids, and we were talking with the hands. Some of them know Hebrew,
Mhm.
some Arabic, few words that I caught few here and there.
Yalla.
Um, but now when we in Muajat and now in Ras Elen, I am less familiar with the Palestinian residents themselves because we
Mhm.
have a kind of place that we stay there, and we do not protect a specific shepherd. We
Mhm.
protect the community.
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah, we know some of them, the ones that are in contact with us, but it's also part of what I think it's good for me. Although I'm there in solidarity, and although I think the communities that I meet are lovely and very welcoming, I feel like I'm intruding their life. I think it is better for them if there was an option that
Mhm.
I will not be there. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think I should be there, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
there, so I'm trying to be less in communication and try to let them live their life.
Mhm.
And if we have an incident and we get beaten or we get arrested, but I can see in the background that the Palestinian kids are playing football all the time, and the women are sitting, and the men are drinking tea or having their nargila while we fight with the settlers. I'm saying, okay, that was a good shift
Okay.
because although I had to pay some price, they managed to live their life in in peace, and this is
Yeah,
why I am
relative
there.
peace. Okay. Well, on to that topic, no, the general cost. Of course, I want to ask you about your experience, like 2 weeks ago, but there's also what happened in Surif, right? But apart from that, I was wondering, I mean, you can tell me about that, but also wondering if there is some sort of stigma within the Israeli society, like once you go, I don't know if people around you know what you do, but or if they do you feel like there's some stigma, some taboo, for what you're doing?
Um, okay, so if we go back to Swift, I started my working in my current job more than 4 years ago, and 3 weeks after I started, I was beaten in a olive harvest in Swift. Settlers, it was an organized attack of settlers. Two of them focused on me, and because I was standing on the side, I didn't want to be part of all the violence, so I stepped aside, and they saw me standing a little far from the group and from the Palestinians who tried to protect us, and they focused on me, and they came running to me, and they beat me with clubs in the head, hands. So this was on Friday afternoon. On Sunday morning, I was interviewed in the radio, in Israeli famous station, and the HR in my company heard that interview, and this is how they learned what I do on my spare time and how I spend my weekends. And then I had to take a few weeks off to rest. So when I came back, I was new, and everyone knew what I'm doing. So I couldn't hide it. So yeah, everyone in my work know what I do. Before October 7th, many of them supported me or saying, well done, how brave you are, you're doing the right thing, we can't do it. But since October 7th, um, the desire for revenge in the Israeli society and the hatred and the racism so intense, so flooding everything, that this is not the reactions that I get anymore from most of the people. But in
Mhm.
my group, everyone knows, my friends, they all know. Yeah, this is not something that I'm ashamed of. I'm not doing
Mhm.
anything illegal. I'm doing a non-violent protective presence. I wouldn't shout it everywhere. I will not tell it to everyone. It might be dangerous in some places, but yeah, I'm not ashamed of it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
uh,
I guess also out of self-preservation. No, thank you for sharing. It's I'm sure it's especially back then must have been very intense, but I'm sure it's not
yeah,
fun to relive all that. You also mentioned, okay, of course, October 7th played a big part in like to this intensifying of this mentality of revenge and hatred. But also, I remember when we had a chat, I asked you about like the age of who takes part in Mistaclim, but you also mentioned particularly how the youth, or you perceived that the youth in Israel was turning more and more towards the right. And
mhm.
I mean, it's personally sad to think, okay, we always had hope that the youth would be the illuminated ones in any conflict, that they would take the higher ground, finally get over the grudges. But what you told me made me feel like it was actually going the opposite way. Um, do you know why this is, or why do you perceive it this way?
In the past, when we just occupied the West Bank, many Palestinians used to work in Israel. They learned Hebrew. Some of the Israelis learned Arabic. People they had daily meetings, daily encounters with Palestinians. This is not happening anymore. Not just because of October 7th, but because of other processes that are going. And also, since Rabin was murdered in 95, we were always ruled by right wing government. And the 30-year-old people in Israel, and even more so 20 and younger, they do not know what hope or hope for peace even look like. There were no peace talks, there were no negotiations, nothing meaningful in
Mm,
the last years. They raised to hate, not to know anything about the Palestinians. This is what they know, only war and bloodshed and terror attacks and hatred and separation. They do not get to know any Palestinians on their day to day life. And although the Arabs in Israel take significant roles in our day to day, in shops, in bus drivers, pharmacies, and doctors, the racism still exists. And it is sad, but this is how it is. The
mhm,
young people in Israel are raised to be more and more ignorant,
mhm,
more and more racist, and they do not know what peace or hope for peace.
mhm,
How does it feel?
mm. Yeah, I mean, only I think yesterday or today, the IDF entered like the university in Ramallah. No,
Yeah, in Birzeit.
um, people, and I mean, of course, big topics right now in the international news, Venezuela, etc. But it barely made like I haven't heard anyone speaking about it here, and because it's so normalized, it's just,
Yes,
oh,
and in Israel, one of the slogans of the anti-corrupted government that we have, and judicial, I don't know how to say,
judicial, yeah,
form, yeah, was without democracy, there's no academic. Where are you?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is what is going on. They invaded a Palestinian university. They shot live ammunition in a Palestinian university. And then you go and shout, "We want our democracy back."
Eh.
What democracy?
Mm-mm. To me, of course, it's hard, like putting yourself in that sort of position. Okay, what if I'm a citizen of Israel? I've grown up under this. I see these conditions. It seems to me like what you're doing is like common sense, no? Like, of course we do this, but apparently the apparatus is so strong that this doesn't seem like common sense anymore. And I'm wondering how they achieve this. How, because you mentioned once you go there, you cannot go back, or you need to go back because you see what happens. So how does the state keep people from seeing this?
again, you are raised from day one, from the kindergarten to this year. My kids, not fundraising, but sending boxes to soldiers, collecting candies, and write them letters from the kindergarten. My daughter's school adopted a military unit, and they are sending letters every holiday, and they are sending cakes and socks and toothpaste. This is how you're raised. You have schools in which part of the military service, soldiers are coming to teach. So you're raised with this constant part of the army in your life, uh, raised as if it is the most moral things, moral army. All the soldiers are our kids, our sons and daughters. Like, we have common kids, the Israeli society. Every soldier, even if he did the most corrupted thing or horrible thing, even if he killed an innocent guy, is still our son, our collective son.
Wow.
And again, because we all served in the army. I served in the army. My husband served in the army.
Mhm.
The guy that I sit with in the office, he served in the army, and his daughters served in the army. It really is like our own kids that are there, and you can't really believe that your kids are doing those terrible things. So it is hard to understand that this is all a narrative. Who wants to admit that his grandparents stole the land from someone, that they came here and expelled the residents? You don't want to say, I live in an illegal place. This is not something that you want, because I didn't steal my house from no one. I paid for it. I paid for the land. My parents did the same, but my grandparents probably not. Yeah, no one wants to admit that. No one
Mhm.
wants to say immoral thing being here. And obviously, you have to pay taxes. You can't not
Yeah.
pay. So you find yourself excuses why it is okay that you do
Mhm.
that. The whole system is built that way. And again, to go against it, we are called anarchists. We get arrested. I might have a problem getting visa to the US
Mhm.
because of false accusations of settlers and police. Who wants to pay that price?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the system, one would call it magnificent if it weren't so evil, just like how
Exactly.
well it works, correct?
It's amazing how everything that we do, it's sometimes so frustrating. Even when we try to do good, they find a way to turn it over and make it bad thing to do.
Mhm.
You come there and you want to protect the Palestinians, and they use it to harass the specific Palestinian that you are trying to protect, to arrest
Mhm.
him, to steal from him, to blame him, to it's sometimes very, very frustrating when you try to do good, and at the end you only make things worse. Yes.
What to say? I mean, it reminds me. Um, so I told you I'm Colombian. We grow up. We had a long internal conflict. You grow up hearing about the guerrilla, and you just it's like a synonym, guerrilla evil. And you, as a child, you really think, okay, these people, they're just evil and they want to kill me. They want to kidnap me and they just want money and to deal drugs. And that's where the the education stops, right? So it's obvious to you unless you get pulled out by hopefully someone or something. It's not trying to excuse society, but it's trying to speak about how the apparatus works.
There are terror attacks. You can't deny that.
Yeah,
There was
yeah,
the October 7th was a massacre of Israelis by Palestinians. And there are terror attacks through these 2 years. There were terror attacks before that. But okay, can we blame only the Palestinians for doing those terror attacks? Don't we have some kind of blame pushing them to be so hopeless, that they are willing to give up their life just to kill more Israelis when they
yeah.
are wrong? Yeah, we have a part in that. Those terror attacks are what makes the Israelis a hate part of what makes the Israelis hate the Palestinians so much and being afraid of them. But as I think the UN said that the October 7th has a context. It's not
Okay.
just out of the blue.
Yeah, yeah. It's a systemic. It's a symptom. Some philosophers would
Yeah,
say.
it has. There are reasons why the Palestinians chose to do this attack. It's
Hmm.
not. It did not come out of nowhere. There were reasons. There is a background,
Hmm.
and we
Yeah,
can't
and
deny it. Deny it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like it's just hard to find new ones, right? Either it's always, do you condemn Hamas, or it's important to make the difference between explain and justify. We're not saying something was
Yes,
right, but
exactly.
we can say this happened because of this. I just have to close up a bit. I know you're tired. The concrete action, I mean, it's very bleak right now as we see it. But I was wondering from the movement I'm a part of, DM25, MERA25, we have mostly advocated international pressure because that's what feels like we can do. So
That's the
BDS,
best
right?
thing yet you can do.
Um, you're seeing the reality on the ground. So is that what we can do, or is there something Israel can do from the inside? Is there a way we can help
Uh,
something on the
we
inside?
are doing our best from the inside. As I said, we feel helpless sometimes. I know that the communities that we are trying to protect, I can't even call it protective presence anymore, but presence,
Mhm.
they really appreciate that. And they say that if it weren't for us, they would have left a long time ago. And this is the only thing that keeps me coming. What can you do? So, as an Israeli citizen, I'm not allowed to call for boycotting Israel.
Mhm.
It's illegal to do that. But
Okay, I can do it for you.
if you will call to do that, I won't say
Yeah.
no.
Mhm.
And also, as an Israeli citizen who live and work here, and my ability to pay for my kids' food depends of not boycotting Israel. So I'm not sure that's the best thing. Also, of our government do not really care about the academic pressure and the boycotts and
Mhm.
everything. So I don't know if that will help, but obviously demonstrations and putting pressure of not selling, not arming Israel anymore, donating for both
Mhm.
Gaza organizations that help the Gazans to buy food, to buy shelter, clothes. There are many things that can be done there. Physicians for Human Rights is an organization of physicians who is doing an amazing job in the West Bank. HRDF, which is a human rights defender fund that is paying for the lawyers that represent us, and we couldn't have done anything without them protecting us and the Palestinians. And for the more brave ones, the ones that are looking for adventures, there's an organization called UCP,
Mhm.
Unarmed Civilians Protection, and specifically UCPIP, which is UCP in Palestine. In Ras Al Uja, we have some UCP members,
Mhm.
and we couldn't have done anything without them. They in the last few months, they're there 24/7. It's not easy. Um, I couldn't have done that, being on the ground 24/7. This is another way to volunteer
Mhm.
and help us protect the communities in the Palestinian communities.
I saw on the website for Mistaclim you can donate, and I'm wondering how does donating help the movement?
Um, I live in Modi'in. Going to Ras Al Uja is about an hour and a half drive. We have cars on the ground traveling from place to place. It's not not paved roads, so the donations are mainly for garage fixing the cars, paying fuel both to get to Ras Al Ain and on the ground. And now, when the settlers established a new outpost that is dividing the village and isolating few families that can't even go and buy food, we help them by supporting them financially and organizing. This is mainly what Mistaclim is using the money for.
All right. So I'll link I'll put the link also in the interview so anyone who's
Thank you
watching
very
might
much.
feel.
Mistaclim, and again, also
Mhm.
HRDF, the Human Rights Defender Fund. Also the Jordan Valley Activist,
Mhm.
is an amazing organization who does the same in the north.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Physician for Human Rights, who's are doing an amazing job regardless of Mr. Klim, but that's an organization that I really support.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much, Neta. תודה זמנך.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, if you have some last thing to say, now's the time. Otherwise, we can finish.
No, I just again, I really hope that something will happen soon. I really hope that the war will interfere and stop those horrific things that we see in the West Bank and obviously in Gaza, where I'm less involved, but I know. Please do your best
Mhm.
to support us, both by fundraising and mainly by raising your voice against what is going on.
All right. We'll
Thank you
try.
very
Thank you very
much.
much. All right.
Thanks.